Welcome back to By George. Today we're talking to Don Grenside. Don, you were born in 1935 in Wellington Hospital.
That's correct.
And you're a founder member of the MG Car Club, which was founded in 1958, I believe.
That's correct.
And you were driving an MGTD that you bought for a vast sum of money.
Yeah, really expensive, £500.
Well, that was a fair bit in those days, I dare say.
It was, because it was probably the equivalent of a year's salary to me.
Right.
Do my normal work and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
What I would like to say about it, at this stage, I was very lucky. I had a choice of two MGs, a red one and a green one, and they were both in Ekatahuna. And I went up there and bought the red one home.
Yep.
And handed over £500.
And drove it home.
And drove it home.
Yep. And you had that for you had that for a year or so, didn't you?
Yeah, a couple of years or so. And then, the next thing I saw, this lovely cream TF on wheels. And
that was a 1500, wasn't it?
that's dead right. Yeah. And I just had to have it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you caught up with that car just a few years ago, I think, didn't you, in Christchurch, was it?
Yeah, good 20 odd years ago. Just very digressing. I was working down there for my company, and I saw this car go past along Morehouse Avenue, and I thought, gee, I wonder if that's my old car. So, to cut a long story short, I went and was nosy, went to the dealers. They brought out the ownership papers. There was my name, and the young guy salesman there said, "Would you like to have a drive?" I said, "I'd love to." So I drove down Morehouse Avenue back again. They parked it up, and before I left, I said, "How much is the old man paying for it?" The vast sum of $46,000 he paid for it.
Right.
But I had heard many years before it had been wrapped around the lamppost and then had been completely, fully rebuilt. Yeah. And it was in beautiful condition. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went from the Tier 1500 to a convertible Triumph Herald.
Right.
Of all cars.
Yes, I'm not sure that's a step up, but however.
Well, the point was it was a brand new one.
Right.
And I had the honour of having the car that Sterling Moss used for that particular Grand Prix season.
Right.
He drove that car to, in those days it was Ardmore. I know he is at Ruapuna. I'm not sure where else, but he used it while it was in New Zealand, and through a member of the MG Car Club, Murray Motors had it on the showroom floor, and so I thought, might as well have it.
Yeah, that's quite good heritage for that car, isn't it?
It was in very good condition, and as a sideline when I had it, what's the name? A Ministry of Transport wanted to do a drink driving little video. So what it was, we had the Triumph Herald up at the zoo on a bit of an angle, as you used to walk in the old days. And what they did, they had a guy hidden under the dashboard, but they've got the chimp holding the steering wheel with a bottle of beer, and the car, of course, rolling down.
Good heavens.
Yeah, so... And it was quite funny. I never saw the results. I don't know whether they canned it or what they did. I don't know.
We have to see if we can find it. Yeah. That could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I've got a number plate number somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then of course what happened then was that I got married and we took off to the UK.
Literally 6 months in a leaky boat, as they say.
Yeah, more or less.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it was a 6 weeks trip, and I went to the diesel works where I wanted to go to, because the company I worked for was the New Zealand agents for them.
That's R.A. Lister.
Yeah, R.A. Lister and Co. in Dursley. Yeah. And that's got a bit of history to it, because Anchor Bilk, the saxophone player, he was born and bred there, and another thing too, while we were there, we went to a wedding, and Harry Seacombe, granddaughter, was being married.
Okay. Oh,
And
that's
this is all in the little town of Dursley. So,
amazing what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's quite good.
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was enjoying my time at Listed, but I wanted to get enough work because we'd had a lot of trouble with the motors in Antarctica because Levin & Co supplied the first 5 Lister diesels that were installed in the original Antarctica way back in
Right. Yeah.
50, was it 58 or something? I think.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I think. And what had happened, what was happening, there was a bearing failure, and like the company had written, said I was coming over, and they did some tests, and sure enough, the bearings weren't right, they'd been machined wrong, and I had the honour of stopping the production line while they fixed it. But never mind, I got paid £10 shillings
Okay.
for pointing it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because they're all right after that. Once we sent the new
Yeah.
bits, they had done more trouble. So
Yeah.
that was time. And then, of course, I went to Silverstone Grand Prix. That's when Gary Wall and Malcolm Fowler were in the grandstands. And my wife and I, got into the pits. And to cut a long story short, I got employed by Reg Parnell's son, Tim Parnell, as a mechanic, and looked after a couple of Cooper cars that he was racing, because Reg was racing Lola's car, Formula 1 Grand Prix cars. So.
Yeah. We've got a photograph here of you in one of the cars I think you built, didn't you?
Yeah, the one and only that I built for Ian Rady, because I left Reg Parnell and went to Ian Rady Racing, and that's what he wanted to do. He bought Jack Brabham's very first chassis and all the bits, and then I stuck it all together, put the motors in and did the V8 up, and in those days they were using the chassis rails for cooling, for water and stuff and all that sort of thing, and we went to Brands Hatch and tested it, and the photographer guy out there was right up for one of the motor magazines at that stage. I just forget whether it was Autocar or the other, but my boss, Ian Rady, said, would you like to take it for a run? I said, I'd love to. So I didn't go very fast. I didn't want to have to rebuild it.
No, as
but
we
I
said.
can say I drove around Brands Hatch race course.
Yes, in a single-seater race car.
So, a single-seater race car, yeah. And the total cost of that car in those days, to buy one brand new, because really it's sort of second-hand, Jack, and that, but you're looking at £12,500 for a brand new Formula 1. Like, if the car that I put together had been all brand new and never been raced, and that's what the price was of that particular car.
Yeah,
and the other thing is that when we come back, there was a lady that Joan worked with, and she sent us a death notice of poor old Ian. I think it's on New Year's Day, I stand corrected, I think it's New Year's Day, there's a charity, drivers donate money to children or handicapped kids or something like that. They have a race day at Brands Hatch, but somehow he lost control, ploughed into a bank, and he lost his life, which is unfortunate. But the very first time he raced it, not long after I left to come back home, he was the first private entrant, and he got 12th in the race out of 22 cars.
Pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah, very good going.
While you were over there, you went shopping. And you ended up at the MG factory in Abington looking at brand new MGBs.
That's dead right, yes.
But you had to wait a while for it.
Yeah, the reason was why I waited was because they told me in about 6 weeks' time the production line will have overdrive, cars with overdrive. So why not wait 6 weeks and get one overdrive?
Yeah.
And then quite a few months later they brought out the hardtop. So they came out the hardtop and the little padded seat behind, and black wire wheels, red upholstery and grey hood and grey tawny cover.
Yeah. And you say you're going around the factory and you went into past the reception area and old number 1 was...
Dead right, and my biggest regret is I didn't have my camera with me, and nor did Joan.
Right.
So we couldn't take a photo. So.
No.
But I believe my mate Gary Wolf's got a photo, so
Okay.
we'll have to hit him up.
Yeah, we will. We're talking to Gary soon, so we'll get him on that.
Yeah.
But the factory was quite a good factory to go around.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and the guy that took us around, he was knowledgeable, and you could ask questions about different things. And
Turner, was it Turner?
yeah. I had what's his name? Yeah, surname is definitely Turner anyway. But I also met Wilson McComb and John Sawley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was when we come back, because Joan and I have been taken out for a lunch at a local pub cafe sort of thing. Had a nice lunch there, and it's when we come back that I met the others.
Okay.
Yeah. And one good thing, before I left to come home from the UK, I went up to the factory and they had a look over all my car, and what I didn't realise that I could have a high compression, real top of the line motor. So what actually happened was that they took the old motor out and put it in this one, purely because another MG car member, Malcolm Fowler at the time, was working for BP. He was able to write a letter to say that I could get number 1 octane, as it was in those days.
Wow.
And by producing the letter, then I got the extra special high performance. And from memory, I stand corrected on this, but it was pumping out something like about 109 brake horsepower at the flywheel.
Pretty good going.
Yeah, pretty good go. It's just memories, my figures may be wrong, but I know it was pretty high.
Yeah.
And why I sort of remember it is because when I was working with Ian Rady Racing, I put together a couple of Lotus 7 sports cars, and with the little 105E motors, they were getting 109 brake horsepower at the flywheel.
Yeah.
So, been around.
Yeah. So what sort of other race cars were you doing at Bradley's?
Oh, there was Ian Raby, he had a couple of bobtail Coopers. He had another Cooper, I forget what, but also the Lotus, I think it's a Lotus 27 is the sports car. We had just an ordinary Lotus. I'm trying to think of it. Certainly not, I don't think it was a Lotus 25, I think it was before that. But, and also at one stage when I was with Rich Parnell's son, I actually worked on Chris Amon's car and prepared it, and I think that was the time he went off to America and raced it.
Okay, yeah.
From memory, I think that's correct.
Right.
But also with Ian Raby, like he was wheeling dealing cars. We're doing a lot of cars for the Yanks.
Okay.
He was buying them up and then stripping and rebuilding them.
Was this for their sort of Indy 500 type series?
No, just Lotus 7s, you know, those sort of thing. No, mainly all sports racing cars, say, because he wasn't doing F1s, he only had his own one, he didn't want to be doing anything else with regard to those. So.
Okay. There's certainly a lot of racing going on, a lot of innovation, and lots of wheel and dealering too, I dare say.
Oh yeah, there were, but I don't know. The other thing too, what I liked about it was the camaraderie between the mechanics and that. You know, we had a lot of fun and that. I can remember being at Monza and where the pit area is a very, very long area, the pit area and that, and Mike Hale was there, and Mike had brought his little fold-up motorbike that sat in the boot of the Jaguar. So if you wanted to go from one end to the other, He went over to Mike, hopped on his little pup-up bike, go up, get the gear, get the tools, spark plugs, whatever, drive all the way back, park it in the one. Well, it was always parked in one posse. You couldn't leave it anywhere else. You did what you had to do, and you had to come
Put it back.
Put it back.
So what were they racing that you were involved with at Monza? What?
Oh, that's with Tim Parnell,
Okay,
and that
Tim.
was with that's with the 2 Coopers
Okay.
that we had.
Yeah. Well, they were very popular cars in those days.
They
weren't
were like, I'm pretty sure Ian, I know he definitely had one bobtail, but he had the other Coopers, which are the more modern, sleeker type.
Were they the Climax motor in those
Yeah,
ones?
they had the Climax motor in them.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And like the Brabham car that I built up, that was a BRM V8 motor in it.
Okay. Yeah.
So
They were a fairly complicated motor, those things, weren't they?
Yeah. They always went back to the factory. The mechanics, we stayed away. We just got a motor that's been dyno test, put it in the cart and take it away.
Right.
But also with the camaraderie in that, it was quite good because at one stage, I just forget what happened, but something had happened. Oh, I know, at Monza, that's right, Surtees got beaten, and excuse the expression, all hell let loose in the pit areas. We actually locked ourselves in the pits, in the pit area, because all the fans had run across the track while the cars are still racing somewhere, and they're bashing up, and I forget who won the race. It might have been Jimmy Clark, I'm not sure.
Right.
But whoever won the race, they virtually had to get him out in a truck and security guards everywhere. And
The fans weren't happy.
no,
Is that right?
typical Italians.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, there was a lot of driving to go to Monza and places like this, and but it was enjoyable. One time we come back from Austria. We'd been to Siltwick racetrack. We come back from Austria, and coming down this big hill, I thought the whole town was on fire, but it wasn't. It was the Krupp steelworks and the big blast furnaces blasting, and the spectacular. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
But there's sort of funny highlights too. Like we were up in Sweden, and I couldn't understand the Swedish writing that, but we got the gist of it. And what it was, the great train robbery had been taking place. So when we hit Dover, well, did we get done over by the customs? Oh man, we had to pull everything out. They checked everything, and we were fortunate. My job, whenever I was away with the team, I had to buy 6 special tins of tobacco for old man Parnell. This is Granddad Parnell.
Yeah.
And that was my job. I had to do that. The boss did it, whatever he had to do, and I put them under the driver's seat of the car, the truck we're driving with the cars. Put it on the driver's seat, and I sat on it. So I stayed on it. I didn't get out. I did have to get out, and the guy just had a look around, but he's more interested in getting into the car to see if we had counterfeit, because I don't know if it was that trip or another trip. There was a young Englishman had I think it would be Formula Junior to be correct, and he had it, but he'd put watches in these petrol tanks, and the customs knew about it, and I've never seen a customer enjoy himself so much as he pulled the covers off the tanks, got this big axe, and just one big slice, broke open the tank, and there were watches. So somewhere along the line, that guy hadn't paid somebody, I'd say.
Yeah.
And of course, another thing, when we were working at Lister's at the time, which is digressing, but the great Fumo scandal, Mandy Rice Davies and all that took part.
Yeah.
And today, I've still got the paper we got years and years ago. Joan found it undoing one of our packages of trips and things, and there's the whole paper of Lenny Rice Days and Christine Keeler. So little things like that. And of course, when I was with Ian Rady Racing, we were down at Brighton, but we live above Brighton in an area they call the Hove. So yes, he was a good boss, Ian. He's very nice.
Yeah.
And so was Tim. In fact, I met up with Tim probably a couple of years after I left there and was back home. I met him at the Living racetrack. He was out here. I don't know who was driving the car, but I saw the car and I had to talk to him. But
I didn't ask you. Did you do any racing, or did you do much racing, or?
No, the only racing just that quick burn around.
Hatch, yeah.
No,
well, it's a pretty good CV, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
I didn't know racing. My racing was at Levin here, and the sprints and that sort of thing, or hill climbs. And,
okay, yeah.
You know, that's before we went, because...
Or was that in the TF or something?
Yeah, the TF. Yeah, the TF. Yeah. No, the TD... I just want to think how long I'd had it before I sort of joined the club, but I did get a call. I've never heard of the person before, just in the last couple of weeks, wanting to know about a red TD, and he rang me, and when you're talking to Gary, I must ring Gary and ask him, but he mentioned he'd rung Gary first, and then he got hold of me thinking I might be able to help, but I couldn't help it.
No,
it wasn't my red one. And
no, I think I know the one I know the guy you're talking about. Yeah,
somebody in Dunedin or somewhere.
He's hunting around all over the place trying to find his old car, but we've only got the old plates. So without new plates, it could be and you can't get the ownership papers like you used to either.
No.
So yeah, that's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, because they used to be all brown and white, weren't they?
Yeah, well, different colours over for different periods, but yeah. But without the ownership papers, it's very hard to find out what it is. So you came back to New Zealand with the MGB. Yep. Did you race that, or just in tour?
Yeah, somewhere somebody's got me in a gymkhana up at the Wellington Showgrounds.
Okay.
Out the back. Yeah, somebody's got a photo of me racing it.
Right. Yeah. I'm
trying to think who it is, but it's quite funny talking about at our wedding. Ron Chapman was there, and it's funny. He was my he was head of the house, Ron Chapman. And he also designed the plans for our house, but Ron took a photo of all the AMG cars going around the top end of the airport to go to the reception. Right. We got all the wedding cars and there's AMGs everywhere. Yeah. But that's what happened. We come back, we had our oldest daughter, and then had to do something about the house, and only way in those days was with the car, the customs you had to keep 12 months, but unless you did something with it. And I said, well, I want to build a house. And I said, right, you can. So I sold the car and I paid for the foundation of the house.
Yeah. You do what you got to do to get a house, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's right. I wanted a roof.
Wife and kids and what have you. Yeah.
So.
And you've been happily married for, what did we say,
59 years.
59 years. Well done, sir.
This month.
This month, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, yeah. No, it's a shame you still haven't got the B as well, but however.
No, I'm very lucky. I got a wonderful wife. I couldn't wish for more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No, she's really good.
Yeah.
And so it was keeping the B. I know there's definitely that gymkhana, but I don't know whether I did any hill climbs or that in the B. I can't remember. No, but never mind. It's all history. So we built. Like when we come back here to England, I went back to the company where I did my apprenticeship and that, and they took me on for a while.
Yeah.
And
that was listed engines as well, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. It's in those days it was called Machine Tools in Adelaide Road, but it was owned by Levin and Company.
Okay. Yeah.
And Levin and Company. We're a list of diesel agents, list of milking machines, Ransom Miles lawnmowers, the big ones for parks and that, Johnson Everroot outboards, And then there was all the servicing, the Island Bay fishing boats, the trawlers at Wellington Wharf, a couple of pleasure boats. I actually fully fitted a Italian fishing launch out from start to finish. And
they were all Italian fishermen, weren't they?
All in Island Bay.
All in Island Bay, yes.
Yeah,
I remember my mother was from out that way, and she was always talking about the only thing good about it was you got good fish.
Oh, well, the other good thing when I worked on it, I'd come ashore with waders on, but I'd have 2 or 3 crayfish stuffed down them. Because you never knew where Doc was down there. So.
No.
But and then I'd be cheeky enough to go to my wife's parents' place and have a bet with her father who had the fastest crayfish up the driveway. So I just silly little incidents, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I was very fortunate. I come back to worked at Mansell Motors for 6 months, and then I got a job with broadcasting, and that's where I really enjoyed my life. And had a big 1,000 horsepower generator there, and I worked in the workshop area, and I did tutorial with the techs and that different sort of work stuff. From there, they had a vacancy in the diesel section, and so they grabbed me because being a diesel mechanic.
Yeah.
So.
And you remember David Hector, who we've done a video on before. He was at broadcasting for quite a few years.
I remember David very well.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy, old David.
Yeah. Had lots of good stories out of his time at broadcasting.
Oh yeah, he could probably tell more than me. But no, we were a pretty good group. There was 3 of us, we qualified diesel, fully qualified electrician, and then there's a gopher boy. And we'd go away and do big new installations and all that sort of thing. And there was always overhauls and maintenance, and I worked through with broadcasting, and then what happened was they had a big reshuffle, and they said, I found out later there was something like 800 staff or something was put off over the country, something like that. But what I remember that I was taken in the room and I was told, you've lost your job, hang on to all your cards, keys and everything, start work tomorrow morning. In other words, I never really left. But and it was quite funny because at that stage what happened, there were, I think I'm right, there was 80 in the Wellington area or something, and I was the only, what you might say, outsider, diesel mechanic, and they just wanted me to carry on, and because somebody had to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, who do they train? So that was like that, and then the boss that used to be there, he went off to Aussie. The electrician went out on his own, the gopher went somebody else, and there's only me and 2 mechanics, and one of them is still alive today in Pyecock, old Dukey. And then there was myself, and then Duke retired, and then I was lumbered with the whole lot. So I did installation and maintenance, and because I was quite good at tech drawing and stuff, they actually got me to draw the floor pans for the ducting, the outlets in the wall, all this sort of thing. Then they went off to a professional draftsman and all that sort of thing. Yeah. But I quite enjoyed the designing area and all that, because I enjoyed my tech drawing work and all that sort of thing when I was at college. And but no, broadcasting words are very good. I know when my father passed away, God, they had me on a plane back up here quick as lightning, and I always respect that. And when I was in the workshops, I actually built an animation machine. Now, the equivalent of an animation machine is more or less the same as, you know, years ago the Kiwi get up in the dish and go to sleep and all that. Yes. Well, it's a machine to do that.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. I've got a photo if you want it.
Yeah, that sounds
and
interesting.
And then the other thing I did for the 1974 Christchurch Commonwealth Games, is it?
Yeah.
I bought what they call a low pitch trolley. It was a trolley. It had a camera on it, and the guy sitting on it, he could swing all around, and they could push it all around, all over the place. And
Well, that was one of their first events to be in colour, as I recall.
yeah, it will be, won't it?
Yeah.
Because Dick Taylor won the first race, didn't he?
Yeah, and he did it in colour.
Yeah.
Because I remember
that's
the red, they had that
Yeah.
red tarmac there before it was all destroyed by the earthquakes.
Yeah.
But I also remember from a MG Car Club point of view that the first thing I went to was a film evening, and at the Clyde Key Tavern in town in Wellington, and we had Dave had a 16mm film projector which we borrowed from broadcasting, because that was the only way you could see things. You couldn't internet them those days or watch them on TV. We had films which we borrowed from Shell on the terrace. So thank you, broadcasting. So,
just digressing, when we went up to Niue Island,
yes,
there's a diesel mechanic up there in charge of all the equipment. What they decided to do about a year after we arrived, because I just went to look after the launches and the generating plants and all that, they decided to build the airport. So I ended up all putting together scrapers and twin motor scrapers and front end loaders.
gotcha.
I had no knowledge, but I soon found one. But we had a guy from Clyde Engineering here in the hut. He came up and we put it all together. We built the airport, and I didn't realise that an airport runway is flat for about 1 metre, then it slowly tapers off. So as the wheels are, not on the same area, and it helped to guide the plane and that. And we'd done the surfacing, and trouble is when he came in to land, he blew 5 tyres on the plane, and the plane only carries 2.
Oh dear.
This is a big hurt. So the next thing is when I see Rescue Orions arrive with a couple of big crates of drop, spare tyres, spare bits, everything. And Joan and I started up our own company and ran that. And
What were you doing there?
diesel work. I'm doing all broadcasting's work again.
Okay, yeah.
So that's
But under your own company?
Yeah, under my own company. But doing like installing, overhauling, repairing, everything, all the whole lot. And I'd get outside contractors. We used a lot of air-cooled engines, so I had different, like the place in Palmy, we would get them to do our ducting work, and there was a certain place in Christchurch. And
did you do that till you retired, or?
That's how we did it. We did it all up, and then I said, right, it's time to retire. I mean, I was on the pension anyway. So.
Right, yeah.
And I just thought, well, let's get out and enjoy life.
Yeah.
And, but no, all in all, it's, I had a great time. I got 3 great kids, and I got a great wife, so what more does one want?
Sounds like a pretty good life. Don, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure to talk to you. I hope you can make something of it all.
I'm sure we will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
It's Good Night from Channel 2.